When did you decide to retire? And when did you?
I never retired.
You never retired?
No, and I don't plan to. You know, I want to be one of those examples where people could see, look, you can do this until a very, very high age. So I think I'm going to continue until until like maybe, no, even in the wheelchair, yeah, I could still do my robot, trust me.
Tell me about what your life's like now, because you're doing all sorts of things. You know, you're teaching in a class at a university in Austria.
Yeah.
I saw this amazing clip called The Theater of the Mind, which talks about you performing on a stage and talking about, you know, how you look at street dance versus, say, a formal dance, and how I think, you know, you're trying to bridge the gap between those two. What's a typical month like for you these days? I mean, you're everywhere, right? It's not just about breaking.
Let's get into that. Okay. You call it street dancing, yeah? A lot of people, they're not aware why it's called street dancing. And it's only because back in the days they could not find the opposite to academic dancing or formal dancing. What would it be? So now you have these guys that are always dancing in a studio. They learn in the studio, they get drilled in the studio, and then you have these guys that are actually dancing everywhere. And that's where, like, they just couldn't think of a different term than street. And that's where it came from. So also for the people that were dancing everywhere, they called it street dancing because that's where people were talking about it. But they were not necessarily dancing or practicing in the street. Everybody was practicing at home, in the living room, in their room, in the garage, in the parking lot, on the sidewalk, in church, in a club. Those dances were invented and developed in clubs, at parties, rooftops, and so on and on. Not on the street. So we always danced everywhere. And that's still how it is today. If you would hang out with me during a day, sometimes I think you would get into to embarrassing moments where I would just go with you through a shopping mall or something like that, and I would do some moves just because I see a reflection of myself, so I would try something. Typical thing, elevators. You know, all elevators have mirrors. So automatically, if I'm alone in an elevator, I always dance. I dance every time I have a free minute. Every time I try on clothes in shops, and I'm going, you know, like to the dressing rooms. I close the curtain, and I dance for like 5 minutes to find out, can I dance in these clothes? There's no clothes in my house, you know, that I wear that I won't be able to dance in. Yeah, and that's something very important to me. So I dance everywhere. And if dancing is your passion, then also your thought goes that way. So every time there is a moment where you feel like dancing, you should. And I have no restraints. I learned how to live with it, that people look funny at me when I'm standing at the bus stop and I'm trying some moves. I don't care. I don't care. It's even like that. It happens a lot of times that people recognize me because of it. That I'm standing at the line at the register and they are not sure, is it him? You know, then I start moving and they come over and say, Storm, I knew it was you. It happened to me at the airport a week ago, where I lost my laptop on the plane. I left it there. I traveled with my son. I packed all his stuff, forgot my laptop behind the seat. So next day I had to pick it up. So I went there and I was so happy that I got my laptop back. So, and then when I got out of the office, I started looking just a little bit, you know. And there was this guy, he came running after me. He was from Greece. And I don't know where he was going. He was like, I knew it was you. So happy to meet you. At first I was like, is it him? Didn't want to, but when I saw you looking, and that's how it happens. And I think it's okay. Yeah, it becomes, I think it's good, especially when people know that you're an artist, you know, you become aware of it. And I think it's best advertisement too, especially if you if you show quality in your move. A lot of times when you practice on the street or in the airport or wherever, you're not necessarily doing moves that you're very good in, but you're working on the moves that you're training on at that particular moment. That's another thing that I wanted to say earlier. Like, I think one of the biggest problems with most of the guys that just want to impress, that they go to training and they train on moves that they already know. I think that's one of the biggest problems. So once you inherit a technique, you will never lose it in your entire life. It will always stay there. What's missing sometimes is that you lose timing. Yeah, that could happen. But other than that, muscle memory is there and you could move on. And most guys, they get too comfortable with what they know, so they stay there at that level. Throughout all these years, I've seen too many people just always dance and doing the things that they know how to do. And it could become very trivial as well, where they would always, every time, instead of trying something new, they would go back to what they know, and then they become repetitive, and so on and on. So, but that's just something for a topic that we had earlier. So,
yeah, there's no learning unless you're in an uncomfortable place.
Exactly.
And without failure, there's no learning.
Yeah.
But it's easy when you get that windmill that's super fast or the halo or something. You
feels
just
good.
You do that the rest of your life.
Yeah,
and then you don't learn.
Into that comfort zone, and
Right.
and that's it. But also, you don't grow without resistance. Yeah, and that's, again, it brings me back to where I said that I try to keep myself hungry. Yeah, I think that resistance is necessary for me. I like to argue sometimes. I'd like to push myself somewhere, and like when people ask me for a battle or for a call out or something like that, or they want to dance against me, sometimes I feel very uncomfortable. So I'm like, is there a possibility we don't do it now, but maybe tomorrow or something? So most of the times they react happy. Oh, so you're willing? I'm like, yeah, but just not now, So I'd like to do it, just sometimes it's an inappropriate moment, yeah? For people that are listening and are watching, right
so
now.
They don't
just
call
so
you
that
out whenever.
tomorrow at the event or something,
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, what have I said? What did I say? But I think through improvising in dancing, all my life, this is something I like. I like to, I always tell people, when you learn how to improvise, you're always in a crisis, right? Because you never know what's going to happen next. But, it schools you like that. And like that, I have the feeling as if you're prepared for any moment in life, yeah? Because nothing is, you always predict the unpredictable, and it's nice. You can make your own decisions. You learn how to make decisions. And you also, even no matter how deep you fall, there's always a way to get out of that swamp again. Yeah.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, learn from the best minds in the world, and connect with a community of passionate people building the best versions of themselves. Just click on the link below, and I'll see you on the inside.